Hey there, folks, and welcome to this week's Friday Facts number 399. And boy, we have an absolutely amazing one, potentially the best Friday Facts we have had about the expansion yet. That is obviously up to each of you to decide, but this is absolutely fantastic. And we're just going to hop into it. This is all the information, at least most of the information on Fulgora. There's still going to be some secrets, I think, but this first GIF here just starts us off with a bang, literally. So this is written by Arendelle, Kovarex, and V, and we start with lightning storms. So on Fulgora, every night brings an immense lightning storm. So lightning hits things at random based on material and height. If you're wandering around in the middle of nowhere, expect to get zapped a few times. It can kill you and wreck your stuff, so look for shelter when it starts getting dark. Now, when I first read that, I was concerned because I was like, okay, great. So we're just gonna have to constantly be rebuilding stuff. It's gonna be like I'm streaming constantly with all my stuff dying. But there are ways to prevent this that also have some benefits, which is actually one of the things that a lot of people guessed as well. And it's really interesting. So we're gonna move on here, and I'm just gonna say definitely try to stick through this whole thing because there is some absolutely amazing stuff that we unlock here, and that is super super powerful. So we should definitely pay attention to that. So basically, ruins provide initial protection, and the protection zone is highlighted with this color here. I can't. Is highlighted in cyan. That's the color when you interact with the structures. So you can basically hide near structures to or under certain structures to protect yourself. The taller ones, of course, provide more protection. We all know lightning, is attracted to taller metal objects. And then you can see that there's also ancient lightning rods dotted around that guarantee protection in a moderate radius. And then some of your own structures, like rails, can handle being struck by lightning, but most structures will take a lot of damage if they get hit. If you need to throw down a few structures of your own, it's not a bad idea to do so near these ancient attractors. Again, though, we can make our own. So, lightning collection. So players can construct lightning rods, basically, and this is quite a few Friday Facts ago. I think I showed it in my like Easter egg spoilers discussion video, but there was a picture of something like this, or maybe it was this exact picture. I think it was a placeholder at the time in the the equipment bar, or not the equipment, but the toolbar for the player, and we're all wondering what it is and it was, and that's what this is. I think they've redone it since then, but this is definitely what that was. So soon after arriving on Fulgora, you'll figure out how to make your own lightning rod. So they protect a small area, basically from lightning, but you can place them where you want. Obviously, better yet, they can capture some of the energy from each strike and add it to your electrical network. So I had guessed last time, I wasn't the only one, of course, but I had guessed that you can maybe, capture the lightning through a lightning rod and, take some of that, high voltage energy and keep it, and that is correct. So it goes into an accumulator here, right? So you can store it. Of course, it needs to be in accumulators, and the storms only happen at night, so you do need some sort of power generation throughout the day, but you can store the energy, which is super super cool. I really like that different aspect where we can actually get energy from the environment. It'd be like having wind turbines or something on Novice or another planet, which is not out of the question at this point, to be honest. But there's something really satisfying about the sky trying to kill you, but then you turn it around and exploit it. Lightning just went from a threat to a resource, right? So there's that. And then once you're producing the planet science pack, you can unlock lightning collectors, which look very similar but definitely beefier and more substantial. And they're just an upgrade from the lightning rod, and they cover a larger area and convert more energy into stable electricity, right? So once you get these, you can really start collecting a bunch of energy, and they obviously provide a larger collection area or protection area, which is super nice. So that's that so far. Now we go down further into islands of stability. I first want to say this looks absolutely amazing. The way they done this. Now, when we were teased Fulgora last week, I didn't expect this, honestly. I thought that the like oil sands were just like little patches, but it's actually the opposite. It's like an ocean of it with these islands. And the first thought I had when I saw this was this is going to be so cool to run elevated rails across island to island to island, and this is exactly what they mentioned doing. So this is, it seems like we all have the same thought here. This is just going to be so cool. So the plateaus of Fulgora are like islands. They're surrounded by sinking oil sands that act like quicksand for structures. You can walk across them, but the only things you can build on the sinking sands are elevated rail supports and offshore pumps. Lightning is collected based on the bolts that would strike that area naturally, meaning that each island has a maximum energy collection rate with full coverage. Islands are usually separated by a gap that's larger than basic quality big electric poles, so in most cases, each island will have its own electric network. Island size matters. And you can see there's some bigger ones, there's some really tiny ones. I'm not quite sure what these are. These are probably the lightning rods, I would imagine, the ones that are just, there on the planet already. There are different types of islands. The largest islands have expansive desert and more natural terrain. There's more space to build and more area to collect power, but no resources. Medium islands are usually cities and have a mix of space and resources, but the resources are not as rich. These islands are a good place to get started, though, as they have a good balance of space, resources, and ancient protection for lightning. However, these small islands have some special significance. They're always isolated by a moat. The resources here are far richer, but the lack of building space means they will probably need off-site processing, as you can see all of these. The result is that you'll typically be motivated to create a train network that spans over many islands using elevated rail, right, which we just talked about. And now this was, they say down here, this was late game, so it looks different, and we'll explain why, but basically you can like landfill over the oil sands very late game, but these were islands, and you can still kind of see some of that, right? So this is just going to be super cool, and you can see this is all elevated rail and then drops down over onto this island with all of these loading stations. This is just super, really interesting. I really like this. And Kovarex goes more into this, which is really interesting, right? So essentially the first impressions from Kovarex, okay? And I'm just gonna look through here. I had some notes on this. So basically things described so far were quite well and were not mechanically touched since initial design, but the rest didn't have such a straightforward creation story. So they say, Kovarex says, when I was doing the historical first playthrough of the planet's content in January 2022, which is wild that they were doing playthroughs of these new planets for over 2 years ago, is pretty crazy, because at that point I don't even think we knew about the expansion officially. I don't remember the exact date, but I feel like maybe we didn't, or we had just learned that they decided to do one. But Kovarex goes into saying that Fulgora was the third planet he visited, and basically at this time it was a pristine desert, and the only thing special about it were lightning the island's one new ore and a few new recipes. And basically, to summarize this, is he just said that the gameplay felt way too much like Novice, just all over again, and that essentially they felt this way for, it kind of was discouraging, because it's like, well, if this feels this way, then what's the point of all these other planets too, if they're just going to feel like, another version of Novice. So they couldn't give up, but they decided to kind of take a step back and rethink things and do a revamp on it, and a pretty drastic one at that. Since Fulgora needed some revamp and he felt desperate, and he was very open to wild ideas, the first idea was a nuclear option, and it sounded something like this: remove the resources and just put trash that some aliens have dumped on the planet. It can be directly transformed into any basic resource through assembly machines, so the game would be shortened and the repetitive parts removed. And that would already be an improvement, but Arundel came to rescue again and took it a step further in a way that made everything fit together nicely. This was an amazing opportunity to integrate the recycler. So again, as we guessed, the recycler is unlocked on Fulgora. And I know I'm probably saying the planet, I'm saying it like kind of different each time. I apologize for that. Let me know. I mean, I can look up how to say it. I just, sometimes my mouth just forms words incorrectly. But up until this point, the recycler was mostly just a quality recycling resource sync tool. However, the resource you are mining is made of some high quality scrap, and the recycler just transformed it into all kind of intermediate products in a fixed ratio. Then the gameplay could become much more interesting. So The challenge wouldn't be getting the resources, it would then be like processing them and separating them out and filtering them, dealing with mixed products and all this. And this is how we kind of get to where we are now. So Arundel goes into the part about ruins and resources. So Factorio has certain themes around the engineered impact on the world. There was something that felt really out of character for the engineer to collect and effectively clean up trash from its planetary dump. And basically just goes on to say that, you know, if the only sign of aliens on the planet is piles of trash, it isn't very interesting from a lore or visual perspective. It's much more fun if they have actual presence there. So essentially, they do confirm here that the aliens aren't here anymore, so I don't think there will be any enemies on this planet. However, their technology remains. The main resource on Fulgora is scrap. It's not just trash, but a big polluted mix of ruined machinery, fallen architecture, ice, and rock. And you can see you can, of course, mine it, and it outputs scrap. Then you take this scrap and you send it through recyclers. And this is where things get really interesting. So it gives you some basic stuff, but also there's some basic stuff you cannot get. So it gives you things like ice and stone, and then you get some high level things like circuits you can see going around here, blue circuits, red circuits, green circuits. You can see some wire, but it does not give you stuff like iron and copper directly. For those, you'll need to recycle down again the other things, right? So you could recycle down a circuit to get iron and copper wire, and then take the copper wire and recycle it down to get copper, etc. Right? So that's how you're going to get those resources. And it creates this really interesting process of having these like multi-step recycling areas to process stuff down. And you can see the percent chance for all of this. And, you know, some of the stuff is higher. Concrete, interestingly, is high. Solid fuel. There's a new ore, or a new resource, which we'll go into, which is actually insanely powerful and super cool. So we get that. And then crafting on the planet basically feels fresh, yet familiar, as you don't need to learn many new items and recipes. Essentially, the entire crafting tree is inverted. There are quite a few ways to handle the 12 byproduct recipe. You can do filter inserters, filter splitters, sorting by robot circuit network, and it's also where the new train interrupts can be handy. Now, I had guessed the train interrupts were going to be used to like send the trains to a repair station from being damaged by lightning, which still may be the case, but it sounds like also you're going to be used just to send them to like different processing areas when they have like X amount of something. You know, I'll have to play with it to really figure it out, but it seems like that's kind of the direction they wanted to go with it as well. And it just makes things more interesting without having super quick access to really high level materials. And then we get into fluids. Like this is so, there's so much here. I woke up this morning and started reading this, and I was so excited because I was hoping this week would be when we got more details, and boy, do we get details. So fluids, of course, the recycler cannot output fluids. So how do you get fluids? Well, the polluted sinking wasteland between the islands is full of oil, as we guessed. It's like oil sands. If you put an offshore pump into the sinking sands, you can pump out some usable heavy oil. Infinite heavy oil is slick because it basically reduces oil processing into a bit of cracking. This can be done with the usual recipes, but for that you'll need some water. The planet has no surface water, so then you'll need to take the ice and turn it into water. It can be melted into water in a chemical plant, but you need to decide when and where to use it, right? Needing ice for cracking other water recipes is pretty cool because there's still some scarcity to the light oil and petroleum. So Holmium, this is this new resource here, and there are some pretty awesome things you can do with this. So it's the planet's unique resource, just like lava and titanium is a unique thing to volcanics. It's a very rare element in the solar system, and Fulgora is the only planet where it can be found. Unfortunately, the previous inhabitants also knew how precious it was, so there's no longer any accessible deposit. So the only way to get it is by recycling their scrap, basically. However, rare metals such as this don't disappear after they're mined. The holmium oxide ore can be recovered from the debris and scattered remains of this long-forgotten civilization. The ore is processed into some holmium intermediates such as electrolyte, superconductors, supercapacitors, so that we all already have three new things, three new, intermediates you can do with this. And these new things are then turned into the unique end products of this planet, which include the electromagnetic science pack. Now, I'm wondering, is this confirmation that these are the ingredients for this science pack? alone, or I wonder if there's going to be other stuff that go into this too. But I'm mostly just thinking that for our 2.0 simulation playthrough, but I don't even know that we will know the recipes of these. I kind of am so excited. I forgot what was further down below here. But so we already have we have a new ore. We have 3 intermediates from here, and then the electromagnetic plant. And this was teased. So this is building number 2 from the first time they revealed the expansion in the logo, or the like teaser thing for it. There were 3 buildings, some other stuff like a biter on top, and one of the buildings was the foundry, and this was another one of the buildings, right? So this is super. I mean, this thing is actually crazy powerful, and you'll see why. So this machine can make a lot of different stuff, but it's specialized for manufacturing of electronics and electromagnetics. It's this planet's equivalent of the foundry, and like the foundry, it's a game changer when you get it. So first off, this thing looks freaking cool. Like, they did an amazing job. I don't know if they're finished with it or not. Knowing them, probably not. But this just is awesome, and I really like. It's so different than the other buildings we have in Factorio. You know, we don't have a building that like spins. We don't have a building that has a bunch of electricity going through it, except labs really. And this is just something really different, and I like that it just stands out in its, you know, kind of not just along the exact same lines as everything else we have, right? So you can see they're putting stuff, and it can make red circuits, but let me tell you, that is not the only thing it can make. The electromagnetic plant is a 4x4 machine with a crafting speed of 2, built-in productivity bonus 50%, just like the foundry, and 5 module slots. However, it gets even better, and this also confirms something with the foundry as well, which is pretty interesting. But it can craft wire circuits, electric accumulators, lightning rods, supercapacitors, new science pack, more electromagnetic plants, various Tesla items, which these are maybe, we haven't really seen much of these because they specifically mention lightning rods separately. This seems different. A few other things, and last but not least, modules. This can craft modules, and they confirm the built-in productivity is really significant here because unlike productivity modules, built-in productivity is not restricted to intermediates only. So you can get productivity hits on module creation with these buildings. So through all your steps, let's just say you're making normal tier 3 modules, you know, you make your level 1s and then level 2s and then level 3s of a module, and you can get productivity throughout every single one of those processes with these buildings because it's built in and it's not limited. And this also applies to the forge, or foundry. So if the foundry can make anything that's not an intermediate, it will just get the 50% productivity as well, right? I'd have to look back through the posts on that to see everything it can make. But this means you can, so you can now get productivity on things like modules. I think the rest of the things they mentioned were intermediates, but then the thing is you can also just put other modules in this. Now, if you're making something like modules or non-intermediate, you can't put productivity modules into the thing because that's still not allowed, but you could fill it with 5 speed, or better yet, 5 quality modules, right? Or if it is an intermediate, you could just crank the productivity like off the charts and put 5 productivity modules in here and have 50% built in, and it would just be crazy. You'd probably be getting like 3 materials for the cost of 1 or something. And then quality module 3. So we now find out this is where you unlock quality module 3, Fulgora. So this also brings in some interesting information where it's not like you just unlock quality as a whole in one place, it sounds like. So you would unlock it initially probably on novice, like level 1s, and then the level 2 on some other planet. I don't think Volcanus, they didn't mention it. And then this is level 3. Level 2 could be somewhere else, or maybe on novice as well, I think is a possibility. So when you combine tier 3 quality modules with the 5 module slots in the electromagnetic plant plus the built-in productivity and recyclers to clean up the rejects, then it suddenly starts to be really convenient to mass produce modules with quality. And you can see here. So the quality, since they have rare of 5 quality tier 3 modules, the quality is 200%, and you can see here the chances. So normal uncommon 20%, uncommon to rare is 20%, rare to epic is 20%, epic to legendary is 20%, and there's productivity here as well. And this just becomes super powerful. So the craziness usually starts with making the highest quality tier 3 modules you can get, quality modules, adding more quality to new quality modules. So around and around we go in a wonderful quality carousel that ends with some very powerful machines crammed with very potent quality modules. Now, I'm curious, I would assume so because it seems like all buildings get quality options. If this building can be quality too, if you can get a legendary one of these, this is going to be absolutely outrageous. It already has a craft speed of 2 and 5 module slots. Now, quality doesn't increase module slots, but it certainly increases craft speed, right? So if you could get a legendary version of this electromagnetic plant, I think they call it, yeah, plant, this is going to be absolutely nuts, right? From there, you make modules of other kinds, and over time, you add all the other things like assembling machines, chemical plants, platform components, equipment, spidertrons, etc. Because growth is the only activity the factory deserves, and now that means vertical growth too. But wait, there's more. Remember, the space platforms benefit from quality even more than basic bases, right? Because it allows you to do more in a smaller space, or even use a larger space, but do even more again, right? And then, yeah, they basically just say that this makes Fulgora another great option as your first stop at After Novice. Which will you choose? And I'm curious, guys, which will you choose? Do you think? We don't have the other planets revealed yet, but between Volcanus and this one, which would you choose? Initially, I thought, well, if the only thing we really get here is some power collection, which we can't transfer to other planets probably, and the recycler, I was like, this is going to be the last planet I visit probably. But after this Friday Facts, I really may think about visiting this first for sure. These electromagnetic plants are crazy powerful. You also get quality module 3 from this. The gameplay seems super interesting, and I think it's just going to be a ton of fun. Now we do see some new liquid stuff going in here, and I'm not 100% sure what's going on with this. I'm curious what your guesses are with this. Also, we do see that, where was it? There, this. So we now have a new wire. I'm guessing this is maybe one of the things they listed from, maybe it's like a super capacitor or something, or where was the other thing they mentioned? Supercapacitors or the superconductors is probably what this new blue wire looking thing is. And that may, be used quite a bit actually. So that's something interesting if we're like looking for little Easter eggs in here. But yeah, there's some liquid here too. I mean, this almost looks like oil and heavy oil maybe, or I'm seeing. So these are new items too. These look like maybe the superconductors. So I don't know if there's like heavy oil and something else, or copper and iron melted down, but that'd mean you would have the foundry here. I'm really curious what these liquids are. But anyway, if we go down to the conclusion, this planet is an excellent example of why development behind closed doors for some time was a good idea. We could experiment and make decisions that would normally be viewed as extreme, like overhauling how an entire planet works. This allowed us to transform one of the most repetitive planets into one of the most novel ones. Since we were doing similar kinds of drastic changes all over the planet, the original overall desperation described earlier is now long gone. And he's saying, I'm not saying that everyone will enjoy the expansion, but now at least we do. This is quite an improvement, important requirement for a good game, isn't it? Yes. And are you amped for this planet? As we are, as always, let us know. So I'm amped. I am so excited. This is just some absolutely, I want to say, mind-blowing things. This is the new things we get that they specifically mentioned. The Holmium, the new building, are going to be really interesting, really amazing. And then also some confirmations we got on some other stuff slightly unrelated, like that the foundry and this will apply their built-in productivity bonus to non-intermediates too, is really important to note. I think just the gameplay here is going to be interesting, with having to deal with the lightning and the islands and building elevator rails between them and the oil sands and stuff. And they mentioned somewhere, I think I read over it maybe near the beginning, that basically the place you can collect the most electricity is like off the side of the plateaus. And I don't know if I can find where they said that, but that was just an interesting thing I remember, because I read through the whole thing obviously already. But I don't, maybe Yeah, they see here. But if you're at the edge of the plateau, they can reach lightning further away from the plateau and grab lightning that would be unreachable with a smaller collection area. So that's for the more upgraded one that you can get. And then they did mention in here somewhere, I think I skipped it too, that you do unlock the ability later on to landfill over this, so you could eventually build on this. So that is a ton of details about Fulgora. I am really interested. Are you guys excited for this? Are you as excited as I am? If you are, definitely leave a like on the video, and I would love to hear all your thoughts below. Any, just let me know. I really would like to hear what people think of this, what you're excited for, what you're not excited for, if anything. And I did see I read through some forum posts. I saw some people were definitely not excited about this. Personally, I don't see a reason why. I mean, everyone is welcome to be excited or not. But personally, I don't have any dislikes with this. Like, yes, the lightning will be annoying, but the thing is, there are natural areas here to protect against it. You just have to be somewhat strategic with where you build, and then you can build your own protection areas. And I like it a lot that it's a different challenge and danger aspect than just more enemies. I'm sure we will get enemies like this. I think this is probably the only planet that does not have new enemies because it just doesn't have enemies that aren't lightning. But it's a really nice change to have the environment be the challenge and stuff than, and even a danger rather than just some sort of, actual alive enemy. It's just really nice because novice and stuff, that there's no challenge with the environment. Cliffs are kind of annoying, but otherwise you just clear everything out of the way. You're good to go. There's no danger. It's all just the biters that are the danger. But this brings in a different element and a different gameplay style, and I really like that. I think it's important to have that be different. And the fact that it's like all islands, I was not expecting this. Right, this is not something I expected from a planet to just be like a bunch of islands and basically an ocean. Which, I mean, it basically is. You can't build on the oil sands. You can walk on it, but you can't build on it. So I'm thrilled with this. I have absolutely no complaints. Maybe I'm more hyped up than others, but this is just absolutely fantastic. They gave us so much details. There's probably going to be more to pick apart here. I definitely probably missed some maybe cool Easter eggs. Like, I'm curious what this like green stuff is. But definitely let me know down in the comments what you think, and let the devs know as well. But I think they've done a bang up job here. Really, really excited for this, and I honestly can't wait to see what the other two planets are either. Like, so far, Volcanus and this were both interesting, and this one I think is even more interesting than Volcanus. So I cannot wait to see what the other ones are. And man, I can't wait to play. This is just super exciting. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you are new, welcome, and feel free to subscribe to keep up with future content. And there will as always be a link to this blog post in the description if you want to check it out yourself. But until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.